Alright, hello. Good day sa inyong lahat, Sir Howard here. Welcome sa panibago na naman nating lecture. Now for this lecture, pardon me kasi medyo hinihikap ako, no? So once in a while, minsan sa Tagalog nasisinok ako. So baka once in a while, I pause. I'm giving my time for my body to have the hiccup, okay? So again, pardon me with this condition. So anyway, our topic for today is about self-esteem, and there are 3 questions I want to answer about self-esteem. Number 1, what is self-esteem? We will define clearly ano bang ibig sabihin ng self-esteem. Number 2, ano ang contribution ng self-esteem sa happiness? After all, this is positive psychology. Every topic we talk about here has something to do with happiness. Kasama na dyan yung self-esteem. So, i-connect natin yan. And number 3, how do you enhance self-esteem? This is one of the psychological elements na mahalaga. We need to assure na lagi siyang nasa average to high levels. So, what are the different ways we can do to make that happen para laging mataas yung self-esteem ng tao? Let's start with number 1. The APA defines self-esteem this way: the degree to which the qualities and characteristics contained in one's self-concept are perceived to be positive. Sa simpleng Tagalog, ang overall na tingin mo sa sarili mo maganda. You just remember the following words kasi itong APA medyo technical yung definition. To make it simpler, just remember the words positive, value, and gusto. Yan. Positive, value, and gusto. How positive are you towards yourself? How valuable you think you are? Gaano mo kagusto ang sarili mo? Yung mga sagot mo sa mga tanong na yan will refer to your self-esteem. So a person with high levels or healthy levels of self-esteem are more likely to say the following words: beautiful, special, unique, great, amazing, wanted, so on and so forth. So what do they have in common? These words are very positive about the self. Okay? So yun yung ibig sabihin ng self-esteem. This is so different from self-efficacy, which is one of the assignments in this subject. Pag self-efficacy, ang pinapatungkulan naman nito, we are focusing on a person's performance, skills, capability. So kapag mataas ang self-efficacy mo, it means kaya mo yan. Naniniwala ka na kaya mo yun. So a person with high levels of self-efficacy will believe he or she can overcome challenges being faced. Kaya kong lagpasan itong problema ko. Kaya kong talunin yung basketball team na yan. Kaya kong lagpasan itong cancer treatment ko. All of those statements have something to do with self-esteem. Again, capability, performance, and skills. Naniniwala ka ba kung kaya mo o hindi? Self-efficacy yon. So, self-efficacy and self-esteem ask 2 different questions. Self-efficacy, do I feel capable? Self-esteem, do I feel important? Just remember those, again, the keywords, no? Self-efficacy, kaya ko to. Self-esteem, the degree to which you feel special. Okay? So, those are 2 different concepts. Although magkaiba ang efficacy from esteem, they are related. In what way are they related? They can lead to one another. So, ang self-efficacy pwedeng mag-lead o pwedeng palakasin yung self-esteem mo. Like for instance, let's talk about Lebron James. Si Lebron James talagang super confident. Sobrang taas ng self-efficacy niya in his basketball skills. In fact, in one of the interviews na ginawa in worldwide television, Lebron James claimed that he is the best basketball player in the world. Yung konteksto kasi nito, tinatanong si Lebron Medyo natatalo na sila ng Golden State Warriors. They are behind the series. Tinanong siya nung reporter, confident ka pa ba na kaya nyo pang talunin yung Golden State Warriors? And LeBron, without hesitation, he answered, yes. Bakit daw? Because he is the best player in the world and Cleveland has him. Therefore, kaya pa rin nilang talunin yung Golden State. So that's self-efficacy. Because LeBron knows he's good. Alam niya na kayang-kaya niya, alam niya kung gaano siya kagaling. That contributed to his self-esteem. In what way? He knows his worth. Kaya alam niya kung magkano dapat yung binabayad sa kanya because he knows it's important. He is one of those players in NBA that can do what he can do. Bihira yung ganyang talent, yung ganyang skill set. Bihira yung ganyang lakas ng katawan, especially at his age. So he knows his worth. And where did that come from? Bakit alam niya yung worth niya? Because of his self-efficacy. So self-efficacy can lead to self-esteem. How about the other way around? Self-esteem leading to self-efficacy is also possible. If you believe that you have something to offer, that immediately creates motivation. So one of the immediate effect of self-esteem, kapag naniwala kang may value ka, it suddenly generates motivation, which we discussed in the past lecture. Now, that motivation, remember, it is an energy that helps people to move forward, helps people to improve. Meron ka na ngayon desire to work hard, meron ka na ngayon desire to learn and to improve yourself, and in so doing, you become successful, you end up being confident. Kaya ka naging confident? Kasi, in-improve mo yung sarili mo. Bakit mo in-improve yung sarili mo? Ginanahan ka. Anong nagpagana sa'yo? Because you realize you have something to offer. An element of self-esteem. One good example of this framework, na naranasan niya, si Yorme Isko. Paulit-ulit niya, sinasabi in his speeches na dati-rati basurero lang siya and he knows his worth. And he knew that his worth is not that high. Hindi naman masyadong mataas ang value ng basurero, especially in the Philippines. But what happened? Somebody discovered him in showbiz. 'Di ba? May nakakita sa kanya, may nakakita ng value niya other than his being basurero. So binihisan siya, inayusan siya, binigyan siya ng shows, nag-entertain na ng mga tao, and people like him. So the more people like him, the more Yorme Isko saw his value, which motivated him to further improve. Alam kasi niya na ang pag-aartista, hindi yan forever. So at the side, he was so motivated to improve himself through his studies. So nung araw na nag-aartista siya, nagsa-sideline din siya ng estudyante. He became a working student studying law and governance. Ayan. So, ganado-ganado siyang gawin yan. Saan galing? Kasi nga, motivated siya. Saan nagsimula yung motivation niya? Because somebody saw his value. And to make the long story short, patuloy siyang tumaas ang self-efficacy. Tuloy-tuloy lang yan until, I think, the climax of his self-efficacy was seen when finally he went to run for the presidency. Hindi ka naman tatakbo ng presidente kung ang self-efficacy mo mababa. Kaya ka tumakbo ng pagka-presidente kasi alam mo na kaya mo, confident ka na maging presidente. Alright? So, yung example na yan, again, from Yorme Isko, we saw this framework happen. Another thing about self-esteem that I want you to know, which I think at this point, it's already obvious, nasusukat ang self-esteem. It is very measurable. And in psychology, we do this through the use of standardized psychological tests that are designed to measure self-esteem. Isa sa mga pinakasikat na test on self-esteem, madalas ginagamit in psychological research, is the Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. As in, halos lahat ng study na merong self-esteem as a variable, gumamit ng Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. Some of the items this scale include: number 1, on the whole, I am satisfied with myself. Number 2, at time I think I am no good at all. So this is a reverse item. Number 3, I feel that I have a number of good qualities. Number 4, I am able to do things well as much other people. Number 5, I feel I do not have much to be proud of. Another reverse item. And number 6, I certainly feel useless at times. Okay? So yan yung mga items na binibigay sa isang tao na sasagot ng Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. But remember, Rosenberg is not the only scale for self-esteem. Although sikat, widely used, hindi lang yon yung pwede nyong gamitin. For instance, we also have the Adolescent Self-Esteem Questionnaire, wherein this questionnaire specializes in measuring the self-esteem of adolescents. Kasi may mga self-esteem scale specific with developmental period. Merong mga instruments sinusukat ang self-esteem ng mga childhood, ng mga tao na nasa adolescent, such as this one, ng mga tao na nasa adulthood. Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale is universal. Halos lahat ng age group pwedeng sumagot ng Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale, which explains why it is widely used. Pero focus lang tayo dito sa Adolescent Self-Esteem Questionnaire. Some examples of items being given include: I am able to stand up for myself and what I believe in. I feel I can be myself around other people. Overall, I like who I am. I feel that I am a valuable person who is at least equal to other people. I think other people like me. Take note, these are not all the items. Hindi ko pa sinama lahat ng items. It's a very long scale actually. Wala lang tayong enough time to discuss all the items. But again, the point, there are many psychological tests out there that can measure self-esteem. One more thing about self-esteem before we move on to the second part of the lecture is self-esteem is highly socially constructed. Yung level ng self-esteem mo between the dichotomy of nature and nurture, nandito yan sa nurture part. This is an issue in developmental psychology. Meron tayong mga psychological elements that we are born with. Nature na natin yon. And there are psychological elements that are wherein we are shaped by having those. Nurture yon. And I would place self-esteem in the nurture side. Walang tao ang pinanganak na inborn mababa ang self-esteem. So hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, bro, sis, pasensya ka na, pero lahi kami ng mga mabababa ang self-esteem. Okay, so that's not possible because how high or how low your self-esteem is highly depends on the nurturance from the environment that you are getting. And I think this is a good news. Don't you agree? Kasi this tells us that we can easily identify interventions in the environment para mag-improve yung self-esteem ng tao. Kasi imaginein mo kung yung self-esteem inborn, halos wala na tayong magagawa dyan because almost everything inborn is hard to change. It's already fixed. So if you are born with low self-esteem, really, there's nothing much that we can do with that. Yun na nga, buti na lang, ang self-esteem talagang nurture. So we can identify different external interventions para mag-improve yung self-esteem ng tao. Now let's move on to the second part. Let's now connect self-esteem with happiness. So I am asking a mediating variable research question here. Diba? Most people, lalo na yung mga hindi psych majors, they just know that having a high self-esteem leads to happiness. Which makes a lot of sense. Kung gusto mong sumaya, anong gawin mo? Pataasin mo yung self-esteem mo. But being a psych major, you need to know more than that. Hindi lang dapat alam mo that self-esteem also increases your happiness, but you understand what makes self-esteem and happiness connected. Anong meron sa self-esteem na kapag pinataas mo yan, anong nangyayari sa tao, at dahil dyan, tumataas yung level of happiness. Again, in research methodology terms, I'm talking about mediator variables, right? So as a psych major, you need to know What are the different mediator variables that connect self-esteem with happiness? And in this lecture, I'm going to share with you 3 mediating variables between esteem and happiness. But take note, these 3 are not all the variables. 3 pa lang yan. If you read the literature, I could go on and on. Pwedeng nasa hundreds yan. But for the sake of simplicity and time constraints, 3 lang muna yung i-discuss ko dito. Number 1, the first variable that connects self-esteem and happiness is good health. Anong connection nun? I'm sure marami sa inyo alam na that good health is very much connected with happiness. That is well-founded in the literature. The healthier your body is, the happier you become. So the question now is, ano ngayon ang nagko-connect sa healthy self-esteem with good health? There are 2 angles here. Number 1, because you like yourself, because you value yourself, you end up experiencing positive emotions towards yourself. Masaya ka sa sarili mo, komportable ka sa sarili mo, and those emotions lower down your stress. And when you have low levels of stress, something good happens physically, mababa rin yung level of cortisol, which, if you remember in biopsych, cortisol in high levels is a poison to the body, lason sa katawan. Kailan tumataas ang cortisol? Kapag mataas ang level ng stress. So kapag stress ka, tumataas ang cortisol, nagiging lason siya, it impairs your immune system, which explains why your body suffers. Kaya ka nagkakasakit. Kaya marami mga estudyante tuwing midterms week or tuwing finals week maraming sakit because they are stressed, high levels of cortisol, impaired immune system. But then again, if you like yourself so much, you feel good about yourself, you are happy with yourself, low stress. Therefore, yung immune system mo is being spared from high levels of cortisol. Another angle that may connect self-esteem with good health is letter B. Dahil mahal mo yung sarili mo, you value your body, you end up practicing a number of healthy habits. So meron kang mga ginagawa sa katawan mo na maganda para sa health kasi expression yan ng pag-aalaga mo sa katawan mo na binavalue mo. Okay, so you become careful with what you eat, you become conscious when to exercise because you are taking good care of your body. I remember one of the passages in the Bible talks about this, diba? The Bible teaches us to increase our self-esteem by changing the way we look at our body. Ang katawan daw natin, sabi ng Biblia, hindi lang tayo katawang lupa, hindi lang tayo puro cells na dikit-dikit, maya-maya katawan na, but more than the physical body, we need to look at our body as a temple of the Spirit. Diba? Nagkaroon ng promotion from a material object, from a material thing. The human body, it became a spiritual entity being a temple of the Spirit. Once you see your body to be like that, it's a temple of the Spirit, obviously, maapektuhan talaga niyan yung healthy behaviors mo. Because you see your body as a temple of the Spirit, you take good care of your body. Hindi mo dinudumihan, hindi mo binababoy, lagi mong inaalagaan, lagi mong mine-maintain, gusto mo laging malinis, you end up having good health, which leads to happiness. Okay? So that's one way that the Bible increases your self-esteem. It teaches you how to look at your body, which connects to happiness. So with that, happiness insight number 1 for today, if you want to be happier in life, what do? You take good care of your body. Isa sa mga reasons yan, bakit ang tao nalulungkot. Mali-mali ang body chemistry. Marami mga hormones ang wala sa balanse. Mataas ang levels of cortisol. Why are these things happening? Masyadong maraming mga unhealthy physical behaviors. So that's a very effective way to make yourself a little bit happier, improve the way you treat your body. 'Di ba? Exercise, take a walk, kumain ka ng tama, matulog ka ng nasa oras, so on and so forth. Because, in a way, our happiness, may kinalaman din yan sa body chemistry. At yung body chemistry natin, may kinalaman yan in terms of how we treat our body. Number 2, achievements. So literature is very clear that the more a person achieves, nakakagraduate ka, nakakabili ka ng kotse, nagkakaroon ka ng trabaho, napopromote ka, these things lead to happiness. But how is self-esteem related to sense of achievement? Again, we go back to the word motivation. Remember, I told you a while ago that one immediate effect of self-esteem, you become motivated, which pushes you to, number 1, set goals, and number 2, make those goals happen. So, habang gumagalaw ka, habang nag-e-effort ka to make those goals happen, and eventually those goals happened, that leads to happiness. So, we remember again the examples of Lebron and Yorme Isko. It started with their self-esteem. I can offer something, therefore, I am so motivated to set these goals and make it happen, and then I work hard to make things happen. These things already happened, boom, napunta na sa happiness. Therefore, happiness insight number 2, kung gusto nyo sumaya mga buhay nyo, one way to do it, achievements can generate happiness. That's one way to do it. Diba? Bigyan mo yung sarili mo ng mga achievements. Set goals ng mga bagay na gusto mong i-achieve, and then work hard, exert effort to make those things happen. The more you achieve the goals that you have set for yourself, the happier you will become. Pero tatandaan natin, may prerequisite yon. In the first place, how do you set goals for yourself? You need to be motivated in the first place. And how do you motivate yourself? Sinabi ko na kanina, by seeing your value. Realizing that you have something to offer. It jumpstarts motivation, which jumpstarts your effort, which makes your goals happen. And last one, number 3, the third mediator variable is positive relationships. Again, gasgas na ang literature dito. The more you are relating well with others, the happier you become. Gusto mo ang mga tao, gusto ng mga tao sa'yo, wala kang kaaway, lahat ng relationships mo, very warm. No wonder, magiging masaya ka talaga dyan. But how would you connect healthy self-esteem with positive relationships? Bakit kapag maganda yung self-esteem mo, nagiging maganda yung connection mo with other people? The answer has something to do with your likability. Kasi kapag healthy yung self-esteem mo, nag-generate ka ng mga positive vibes, therefore, people want to be around you. Kasi naka-establish din yan in the literature. People are more likely to be attracted to people who generate positive vibes. Mga tao na magaan o masaya kasama. Diba? So, nagiging mabait yung mga tao sa'yo. Gusto nila laging kasama ka. Kasi you generate that kind of vibe. Bakit ka nga ganun? Kasi nga, yung self-esteem mo is very healthy. One good example of this, someone who has a very positive vibe, Jesus. Diba? For him to say what he said in Matthew 11. Ano sinabi niya sa mga tao? Come to me and I will give you rest. I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Sa totoo lang, I don't think merong tao sa mundo na kaya niyang sabihin niya mga yan to other people. Right? But Jesus is so confident to say these things because it's true. Kaya naman talaga niyang ibigay yung mga yan to other people. And what explains that? Why is he like that? I would say because he has healthy level of self-esteem. So, he likes himself. He is so comfortable with himself. He values himself. God values him. In the first place, he is God himself. Doon nang gagaling yung positive vibes na yan. That's why, if you read the Bible, if there is one word that you can assign to Jesus, he was a rock star. Halos lahat talaga ng tao attracted sa kanya. Except, of course, for his enemies who wanted him dead. But the rest of the people, talagang they wanted to be near him. They have positive relationship with him. Okay? Let me give you some supports how positive Jesus was and how attractive he was for other people. Let's talk about how he called his first 4 disciples. Yung first 2 muna, yung magkapatid, si Peter and si Andrew. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." And look at verse 18. At once, they left their nets and followed him. I find this very weird, and I'm sure kayo rin. Bakit? This is a total stranger. Jesus was a total stranger, and there was only one invite. Isang beses lang niya tinawag. Yung magkapatid, no words asked, no questions asked. At once, they left their nets and followed him. Tanong, bakit? Maybe there is something about Jesus that is so attractive. The vibe is so positive na hindi sila nagdalawang isip to follow him. The next 2 disciples, James and John. When he had gone a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat, preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. Ito nga mas mas mahirap to kasi meron silang iniwan na tao. And who is that person? Their own father. Can you imagine? Here's a stranger, approaches you, and tells you, "Follow me," and you become willing to follow this stranger and leave your dad behind. Again, ang tanong dito, how come? Answer, maybe, again, there is something so positive about Jesus, napaka-positive ng vibes niya, that he is so attractive that these guys are willing to leave their father for Jesus. Siguro ganun talaga ka-okay yung self-esteem ni Jesus na nag-generate siya ng super positive vibe. And this is also applicable to a group of people, ha? Akala nyo puro dala-dalawa lang, no? Yung attraction, yung attractiveness level ni Jesus, it's so high that even large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. Can you imagine? These are major cities. Halos lahat ng crowd from those major cities are so attracted to his vibes that they follow him. So that gives you a clue how healthy Jesus' self-esteem really was. Alright? So these are the 3 mediating variables. Ito yung 3 mediating variables that connect self-esteem with happiness. Again, inuulit ko, hindi pa lahat yan. Because of time constraints, I cannot discuss everything, but there are other variables that can mediate self-esteem with happiness. Also, I want to discuss one of the questions of my students. Very interesting. Paano raw kung mayroon siyang mga kakilala na, for example, wala naman siyang physical health o mahina yung physical health niya. Okay yung self-esteem, pero masaya pa rin. Gets? So here's a person with healthy self-esteem, mababa ang physical health, yet he or she is still happy. Is that possible? Yes. Because remember, in the middle of these 2, marami pang mga psychological variables dyan. So for that person who is suffering from physical health siguro, may sakit, bakit masaya pa rin siya? Baka kasi may achievement. Baka kasi may positive relationships. Baka kasi may iba pang mga variables that are very positive, that connects this one with that one. Okay, so there is no one variable alone in the middle that will connect self-esteem and happiness. Ano yan? Nagmi-mix yan. Pwedeng mahina ka sa isa, pero malakas ka sa iba. Alright? So let's now move on to the last part of this short lecture on self-esteem. How do you enhance it? Paano ba pinapataas yung self-esteem ng tao? Well, the first question that you need to ask, saan ba nanggagaling ang self-esteem? Para malaman natin saan natin ito kukunin. There are 2 sources of self-esteem. Number 1, sa sarili, and number 2, from relationships. Yan yung dalawang sources niyan. So, kung meron kang pagkukunan ng value ng sarili mo yan, and your relationship with other people. Let's talk about number 1, self. So, paano mag-generate ng self-esteem galing sa sarili mo? You need to learn how to do what we call positive affirmations. The way you talk to yourself, malaki ang impact niyan sa self-esteem mo. Don't underestimate the words you are saying to yourself. Don't you agree? Because words are very powerful, whether it's verbal or inside our heads. Merong epekto yan sa ating psyche. Solomon was right in Proverbs. He said, the tongue has the power of life and death. And those who love it will eat its fruit. Diba? So, wag mong i-underestimate yung mga sinasabi mo sa sarili mo because those things that you say inside your head, merong epekto yan sa self-esteem mo. And this is a very good idea to really emphasize on kasi ang laki ng realization natin dito. If we can be the source of our own self-esteem, you reverse the procedure, it means we are also to blame if in case we have low self-esteem. Don't you agree? Yung mga tao na mabababa ang self-esteem, isa sa mga reasons bakit mababa ang self-esteem nila, sarili nila. In what way do they contribute to their own low levels of self-esteem? The way they talk to themselves. Kasi, syempre, kung araw-araw mong sabihin yung mga yan sa sarili mo, no wonder, lalagpak talaga self-esteem mo. I'm ugly. I'm a failure. I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. Diba? I'm useless. So, araw-arawin mo yung sabihin sa sarili mo, in general, wala akong kwentang statements, babagsak talaga yung level of self-esteem. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong, ha? I am not belittling the role of other people in your low self-esteem. Meron din naman, mga ginawa talaga yung ibang tao sa buhay mo na nagpababa ng self-esteem mo. Meron, we are not denying that. Okay? We are validating that. But you should not deny that it's not 100% on them. Yes, they have a role kung bakit mababa ang self-esteem mo, pero wag mong i-deny, ikaw rin meron. 'Di ba? Meron ka rin. And that is found in the way how you talk to yourself. So I want you to do this self-esteem exercise. I just want you to close your eyes right now. And then, you can pause the video if you like. After closing your eyes, I want you to think of three self-esteem statements or positive statements that you can say to yourself. Okay? Do this exercise. Now, let's move on to number 2. Pwede ka rin makakuha ng self-esteem from your relationships with other people. So, hindi lang puro sarili ang pinagmumulan ng self-esteem. In fact, according to self-esteem experts, a large chunk of your self-esteem starts with relationships. Your ability to generate your own self-esteem highly depends on relationships muna. Kaya kung meron kang dalawang source, no, na pagkukunang ng self-esteem, one thing we can learn here is you really need to prioritize your relationships before you generate your own self-esteem. This can only go so far. Pero ito talaga, long-term yan. Okay? So, let's talk about this. A very important concept to remember to teach you how to generate self-esteem through your relationships is what we call unconditional positive regard. I'm sure many of you familiar na sa term na yan. You heard this in theories of personality, specifically when you talk about humanistic psychology movement. You talk about Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, Rollo May, so on and so forth. What do you mean by UPR? When you make a person realize that his or her worth does not depend on what they do. Kapag naiparating mo sa isang tao na yung halaga niya hindi nagbabago sa paningin mo, hindi nakadepende sa mga bagay na ginagawa niya para sa iyo, that is a very powerful way to increase that person's self-esteem. Kasi, let's face it, a lot of our relationships, hindi siya unconditional. Very conditional, don't you agree? Many people who give us self-esteem, they only do that because we can do certain things for them. Meron silang reason. Tuwing kailan nila papataasin yung self-esteem natin. 'Di ba? Nagagawa mo to para sa akin, therefore, pataasin ko self-esteem mo. Mahalaga ka sa akin. Gawin mo to, gawin mo yan. Give me high grades, give me affection. Very good. Nagagawa mo yan, love kita, vina-value kita. Now, Hindi naman masama yon in itself, but you can only imagine if the source of your self-esteem is always that kind. Laging conditional, nakakapagod. It will tire you out. Diba? What if hindi mo nagawa yung mga bagay na gusto nilang gawin? E di hindi ka nila bibigyan ng affection. So yung self-esteem mo magsasuffer. So that means nagiging work-related yung self-esteem mo. Diba? Parang ang magiging labas niyan, I work hard for me to be valued. Which is again, effective naman to increase self-esteem, but it's not sustainable. Kasi there are times you will fail. There are times tatamarin ka mag-effort. E paano kapag dumating yung mga times na yon? Does that mean na wala kang esteem? Hindi pwede. Dapat makakita ka talaga ng mga relationships wherein, in those relationships, no matter what you do, you are still valued by those people. Yun yung tinatawag nating unconditional positive regard. That's why one good example of that would be the Prodigal Son in the Bible. Kayo na lang bahala magbasa Luke 15:11-32, but you know the story. There was a son. Gusto niya kunin yung mana niya from the father. He wants to be by himself, and the request was granted. Binigyan siya ng pera, humiwalay siya sa tatay niya. Now, to make the long story short, after he went away, nagkaroon ng famine in the land, naghirap siya to the point, he is also eating what the pigs are eating. So, he came to his senses. Sabi niya, babalik na lang ako sa father ko, instead na ganito ako kahirap. And so, let's read that part and see where is unconditional positive regard. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants." Now, I colored verse 19 because you can see here clearly the prodigal son had low levels of self-esteem. Denemote niya yung sarili niya, pinababa niya. From son, he made himself servant. So after what happened to him, yan yung epekto. Talagang bumaba yung self-esteem niya. Okay? He demoted himself. And he arose and come to his father. So ito, nagre-rehearse pa lang siya, kung anong gagawin niya. So ito, ginawa na niya. So he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him. The yellow words here express value. Ito yung mga bagay na ginagawa mo sa isang tao na vina-value mo. And what's my point here? Before the son left the father, the son also had this kind of value. Bago siya nagrebelde, his father was valuing him that much. And then what happened? Nagrebelde siya, and then he came into repentance, bumalik siya, ano nangyari? He still had the same value. Ganun pa rin. Diba? So, yan yung tinatawag natin unconditional positive regard. Hindi nakadepende sa ginawa nung tao, yung esteem na nakukuha niya from another person. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. There you go. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Another sign of low self-esteem. He demoted himself. But before he could finish, diba, ang plano niya, gusto niya, servant na lang siya, no? Ano sinabi nung tatay? But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. Again, the yellow words are words that reflect value. That's the kind of value that the dad still gave to his son in spite of his rebellion. So, in this story, we can say na yung tatay was giving the prodigal son the unconditional positive regard. Which is again, what's the point? Unconditional positive regard is a very, very good source to increase another person's self-esteem. self-esteem. Which leads me to happiness insight number 3, enhancing family relationships increases happiness. Diba? Yan yung pinagkaiba kasi ng family relationship compared to any other relationships. Don't you agree? Who can give us unconditional positive regard? Most likely family members. Sure, meron din siguro mga best friends na nakakabigay ng unconditional positive regard, but very rare. People outside the family that we are in a relationship with, most of the time, conditional yan eh. Love ka nila, pinapansin ka nila, binavalue ka nila because you are doing something for them. Kahit sabihin mong jowa mo pa yan, boyfriend mo yan, girlfriend mo pa yan, lalo na. Are you sure na yung value mo sa girlfriend or boyfriend mo ngayon, it will not change no matter what? It's so hard to say. Mahal ka niya ngayon. Mahal ka pa ba niya 5 years after? Yung value mo ngayon sa kanya, ganun pa rin kaya yung value mo sa kanya 5 years after? Honestly, the answer here is, we don't know. Pwedeng oo, pwedeng hindi. But we can never be sure. But, when we talk about family relationships, lalo na yung functional, yung maayos ang relasyon, maayos yung connection. Your relationship with your mom, with dad, brothers, sisters, yan talaga. Sobrang unconditional yan. No matter what you do, anak pa rin kita. No matter what you do, kapatid pa rin kita. Mahal pa rin kita. That's what makes family unique. That's why for those of you who have family problems, please, if you can, fix it. Diba? Magpatawad kung kailangan magpatawad, kausapin ang dapat kausapin. Hindi mo kasi pwedeng i-substitute yung pagmamahal ng pamilya with pagmamahal ng mga kaibigan. Although, importante rin yung pagmamahal ng mga kaibigan, pero napaka-unique talaga kasi in terms of self-esteem, no? Kung ano nakukuha natin from our own families. Alright? So again, this is a very good happiness insight to work on. Make your family as the source of your unconditional positive regard. And you can only do that when you come into terms with your family members. Now, I want to plug one of my videos from my YouTube channel. I created this video entitled Self-Esteem and Immutability of God. Ang pinakasinasabi ko in this video is there is a wisdom, it makes a lot of sense if you base your self-esteem on a deity, such as God. Ang problema kasi, dito sa pinag-usapan natin, going back, yung source ng self-esteem natin in this slide are very earthly. The self is from planet Earth. Your relationships are from planet Earth. We are mortal beings. Okay? Even your family are mortal beings. Ikaw mismo, mortal being ka. So, there will come a time that these mortal beings will fall short in enhancing your self-esteem. Don't you agree? Hindi laging nasa mood ka to generate your own self-esteem. Yung mga kaibigan mo, hindi laging nasa mood. Yung mga family members mo, hindi sila laging nandyan to increase your self-esteem. What if they're not in the mood? Or what if they move to another place? What if they're gone? Diba? Paano yun? So, in that case, kailangan maghanap ka ng source ng self-esteem that is super stable. Something that is not earthly. Something that is heavenly. At yun na nga yung sinabi ko dito. How do you place your self-esteem on God? Ang advantage nan is it's a very stable, super stable source of self-esteem yan. Kasi ang Diyos hindi nawawala sa mood. Ang Diyos hindi namamatay. Lagi nandyan yan. So if your value to yourself depends on how God values you, there will be a lot of advantages that you can enjoy when it comes to sustaining your self-esteem. So dapat tatlo yung source mo ng self-esteem, you know? Yung pamilya mo, yung sarili mo, at ang Diyos. But in this video, I focus more on how God contributes, sustains your self-esteem. Okay, so I highly recommend you watch this video. Okay, so in summary, the following are the insights I mentioned for today's lecture regarding self-esteem and happiness. Wait, i-adjust natin. Yan. Okay? So, gawin nyo yung mga happiness insight na yan to increase your level of happiness. And remember, these insights, lahat yan, may kinalaman yan sa self-esteem. Okay? So if you have any questions, you just ilagay nyo lang dyan sa baba, sa comment section. Sasagutin natin yan if we have time. Sir Howard here. Until the next lecture, thank you for listening. Have a great day. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.